Hey everybody, Tyler here at the Moorpark City Library, and I have another simple guitar lesson and exercise to show you guys today. Last month I focused mostly on acoustic guitar basics. We found a couple of chord shapes, and I taught you how to tune your guitar as well as remembering the strings on your guitar. So those shapes that we used last week and that tuning are going to also apply to the electric guitar. They function essentially the exact same way, except for an electric guitar has electronics under the hood here. We have pickups, which pick up the sound of the string and send them through our amplifier. We also have all these knobs here. These are volume and tone control, as well as a switcher here, or a selector here, which switches between your pickups. Now, before we get started, I should say that if you are playing an electric guitar through an amplifier, have your volume off unless you're playing. Otherwise, it starts to create some unnecessary noise and it's just ugly sounding. And if you're at home with your parents, they might not like that very much. My parents didn't. So that being said, let's get started with our exercise. So just a quick review. What we did last time is we focused on, it was a E minor and a variation of an A chord called an A sus2, which we're just going to call A today. Very simple stuff. So one of the challenges when you're developing your guitar skills is developing dexterity and strength in your hands, particularly your left hand. I found that the right hand, the basic up-down rhythm, you can kind of do that without even using your left hand here. It gets a little bit trickier when you start to do things on single strings or you use different chord variations. So one of my favorite exercises that a guitar teacher taught me when I first started had nothing to do with theory or dealing with notes or chords or anything like that. It was just a very basic 1, 2, 3, 4. I think of it as like jumping jacks. You're not really thinking, you're just kind of getting your hands and body warmed up and able to better articulate your hands for these chord shapes that you're eventually going to learn. So what I like to do is I like to start up here on this string, the E string, the big E. So remember, E, A, D, G, B, E, or Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. So we're going to start here on our E string, 5th fret, which is the 2nd dot here. And we're going to use all of our fingers one at a time. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want, you can do 2 plucks per fret. So for the moment, I'm just going to stick with that 1 pluck per fret. So I'm going to do my E string again. I'm going to go down to my A string. D, G, B, and then my high E. Now when you get comfortable doing that, I would just go down, just start going down, then add the double picking there. So on and so forth. When you get comfortable going all the way down, we can go backwards. Add a little vibrato for fun if you want. And yeah, and just do that. And also when you're going down, when you start it, I'm leaving my fingers down there. So in guitar, we make a lot of noise with very little movements of our hands. It's all very subtle movements. So that could be challenging. Like here sounds quite different. That was a C and a G chord, just for the record. But we're not really we're moving our hands a good amount in a very small space. It's very cramped, and that could be a little bit difficult. So these techniques will kind of help you develop the dexterity, or as I call it, wiggliness in your hands. They want to work in unison with each other, but also kind of independently when you start to do these more complicated chords. All right, so that being said, we're going to work on a new chord shape here. And this exercise that I showed you is actually a really good way of helping your fingers stretch across these fretboards. So we're going to do what's called a power chord. And we're going to focus mostly on the E string and the A string with this power chord. Now, the power chord is probably the most universal thing on the guitar. It was invented by a guy named Link Wray, I think in the 50s. And you're basically going to, where your pointy finger is going to be we call it the root of the chord. So when I say 5th fret E string power chord, so my pointy finger is going to point at the E string on the 5th fret. Now, I'm going to do everything right here on the 5th fret, at least to start, because that seems to be kind of one of the easier ways, or one of the easier positions on the fretboard. It's a little more difficult when you do up here, and it gets kind of cramped up here because the frets get a little bit smaller. So this is the best, in my opinion, spot to kind of learn these techniques. So I'm going to take my pointy finger, and I'm going to put it, again, E string, 5th fret, as close to the fret as I can. And I kind of do it in between the dot and the actual metal of the fret right there, without going on it or over it into the 6th fret. So I'm going to go right there. Then I'm going to take my ring finger, and I'm going to put it 2 frets over, or as we would call 1 full step, we'll get there later, and 1 string down on the A string, A8. So when you're first getting started, you kind of just want to focus on those 2 strings there. And I'm just doing simple down strings. And that shape can be used everywhere, pretty much, on the guitar. So I'm going to move it up to the 7th fret. And just back and forth. Now, what you can also do, very common practice, is, or probably just as common as doing the chords on the E string, is to move those fingers down. We're going to start, again, we're just going to be in our 5th fret there, 5th and 7th. And now I'm on the A and the D. Same shape, same distance from each other, just the strings right below it. Kind of same thing. Move it around. And there are musicians who made their entire career on chords just like that. The Ramones, Green Day, a lot of punk rock and rock and roll is all rooted in simple techniques like that. Now what you can do, you have 3, if you watch the last lesson and you watch this one, we have 3 shapes now. I messed up. Hey, I should practice more. So you can use those 3 shapes pretty much anywhere. And get right to playing without worrying too much about theory, or we'll start unlocking the fretboard and the notes and everything probably in another lesson or 2. But for now, and you could use this on an acoustic guitar. I was dying to play my electric guitar today, so that's why I brought it, because I love the acoustic guitar, but I'm really passionate about the electric guitar. And you will see some people use that particular shape down on these middle strings. but it gets a little bit more complicated because you gotta master your right hand a little bit more. So for now, just kind of focus on those top 2 or 3 strings, those 3 shapes, and you'll see you can unlock a lot of cool sounds and a lot of cool tunes with those, and it will really just start to open up your playing and your creativity. And then we'll start filling in the gaps there with other chord shapes that are a little bit more complicated. Like I mentioned, this G and the C, and then we'll do a D and an F, and yada, 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 yada. Guitar is a journey, like all musical instruments, and it will never end. I've been playing for 16 years, and I learn something new almost daily. So if you're sitting at home and you're wondering what to do, because the pandemic's got everything shut down still, pick up the guitar and make some noise, but not too loud, so you don't, make your parents too upset. But anyway, have fun, everybody, and stay safe.